Hi, and welcome to this episode of Bill and Kipp's Excellent Bible Adventure. My name is Kipp McClurg, and I'm one of the pastors at Vestavia Hills United Methodist Church. And this is Bill Brunson, and he's one of the pastors here as well. We're going through the Gospel of John, and today we find ourselves at chapter 9. And it is one of our favorite stories, the story of the man who was born blind. Now, you'll notice on the table we have one of our props. We have a very low, so far zero, budget for props. And today, I think we're going to be able to continue that streak going. Any guess as to what's in the glass there?
Well, a totally non-scientific observation based solely on knowing the story we're about to discuss. I'd say it's dirt.
And you would be correct.
Yes.
I was walking in the door this morning. I scooped some. Don't tell the landscapers. We got some dirt. Cost us nothing. It was dirt cheap. And so we have ourselves this prop. And there are ants in there, so we probably ought to hurry with this particular episode because
probably should.
They could attack. But anyway, so we have dirt, and it goes right into the story of this man who was born blind. And so, well, let's start there. Where do we pick up with that story?
Okay. Well, Jesus and the disciples, as we've been talking about, they've been on the at Temple Mount, and they've been dealing with the Festival of Booths and all of that in chapter 8. And now in chapter 9, they leave Temple Mount. They're walking out of the temple. They're heading through sort of the complex of the temple and coming down off of Mount Moriah, where Temple Mount is. And the disciples encounter a man who's blind.
Now, that wouldn't be uncommon.
No.
Because people who were disabled didn't really have Social Security or speak up. So one way of taking care of yourself is to ask for alms or ask for a handout.
Right. And if you're going to beg, you want to position yourself in a place where people would pass you, and any of the roadways leading toward the temple is going to get a lot of foot traffic.
Right.
And so the man is there, and so the disciples point at him and say, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he's like this? And Jesus' response is, well, that's not the case at all. He is like this today, but so that I can show you the miracle of God, because while I'm in the world, I am the light of the world. He goes back and sort of brings that again, and he says, so while I'm here, it's time to do the good works that I've been sent to do.
And there's a lot of people who then, and even in my lifetime, who have said, somehow your sin is a result of your parents, or you were born into this situation, and Jesus really tries to sort of address that here.
Yeah, it's not a curse,
right,
that's on this man or his family because of some generational sin that's there. Yes, I mean there's consequences in our lives for the sin that we commit, but it is not directly, I have a cold, I might have sinned.
Right.
There's not that correlation.
And there are sometimes generational consequences for choices that people make, and that affects the next generation, generation.
Right.
But in this case, Jesus says that's not related to this.
No. And so Jesus decides to heal the man. Now, before we move forward, I just have to say, if you're squeamish, you don't need to watch the rest of this episode. Just go ahead, turn it off, let YouTube take you to some other happier thing. Because what we're about to discuss is gross. It is the grossest miracle that Jesus ever did. It is, I can't even fathom how this was the best idea.
I mean, for some people, there may be therapy involved after this.
Yes, I'm still in a group, and we're working our way through this because this is absolutely gross. And because you see, the man is sitting there blind, and Jesus decides to heal him. Positive. That's a great thing.
And really doesn't even ask the man.
Doesn't ask him. He is just going to give the man the gift of sight. I have no issue with that whatsoever. It is the how. You see, in this moment, it says that Jesus spit on the ground, on the dirt, and he makes mud out of it. And in the King James Version, it actually uses the word spittle. I mean, come on, spittle? Yeah, but he makes mud out of it, and then he picks this mud up and smears it on the man's eyes. Now, I've always thought, if I were the man born blind and I cannot see anything that's happening around me, and I know that I am in the Middle East, I know that I am in Israel, I am near the temple, and I know that it is an arid climate, and suddenly mud hits my eyes, my first thought's going to be, where'd the water come from?
Yeah.
Where did we get water?
What moisture are we dealing with?
How did this dirt get wet? But it's now on the man's eyes, and Jesus says, go and wash yourself in the pool of Siloam. The word Siloam means sent. He said, go and wash yourself in the pool of Siloam, and the man goes and does that.
I bet he was running to get whatever was on his eyes
I would have
off.
been moving as fast as I could, feel my way to the pool of Siloam. And then there is no... this story would have to pick up in like chapter 73, because that's when I would be through washing my eyes off in the pool of Siloam and then returning back. But the man goes, he washes, and suddenly he can see. And I mean, this is a man who has never seen before. So, having said all I've said about this miracle, gross. The effect is the man who was born blind, never seen before, suddenly is able to see when he comes back. And the people that knew him, start looking, they see him walking down the road. He's no longer feeling his way. He's no longer groping. He's no longer, I don't know what technology they use. I doubt he had a seeing eye dog. I doubt he had the cane with the red tip.
He may have had a stick or something.
He may have had a stick. Whatever methodology he had used to move himself through the town before, he's not doing that. He's walking along as happy as he can. And the neighbors start going, well, isn't this the guy that used to be blind and he'd sit and beg at us as we'd walk by, and somebody, his eyes are open. Only difference. But one of the neighbors says, no. It looks like him, but it's not him. That guy was blind. And the man has to go, it's me.
I was blind,
but
I'm not.
Now I see. And then they go, well, how were you able to see? And that's when he said, Jesus, I met a man named Jesus. He made mud. Don't ask me how. We don't want to talk about it. That's very disturbing. But he made mud. He put it on my eyes. He sent me to wash. I went and washed. And then suddenly I could see. And they said, where is the man? And this is one of those moments. This is such a great story.
What did he look like?
Yes, where is the man? And he goes, I don't know. And it's almost like he's saying, did you miss the part where when I was last with him, I was blind? Did you miss that part? I don't know where he is. And so they take him to the Pharisees, because that's the answer for everything in this period of time, is you take someone that's been healed, because there are provisions related to healing in the Jewish law. And so they took him to the Pharisees because there was an issue. You see, Jesus made mud in that cringe-worthy, awful way and healed this man's eyes on the Sabbath.
Now, we've been there before.
We have.
Because the man who was disabled and tried to get into another pool, or into the pool of Bethesda, he was healed on the Sabbath. So we're continuing to see Jesus stretching the limits of the law.
Right.
And the Pharisees not appreciating this in the least bit. But the comedy, and this is where John's gospel is so unique, the rest of this becomes a comedy.
Yeah.
Because they, by their law, their definition of reality, it's not possible that a man could be healed on the Sabbath.
Mm.
Not possible.
No.
So something is wrong there. One of the facts have got to be wrong, and so you can see them trying to eliminate which of the facts.
Yeah. Well, and you got this whole issue of, well, if he healed somebody on the Sabbath, well, if you break Sabbath law, you're a sinner.
Right.
Well,
Can a sinner heal?
but yeah, would God allow a sinner to perform miraculous signs? Because he broke the law of the Sabbath, and according to our law, he broke the law of the Sabbath, and so he's a sinner. But can he be a sinner, and can he heal somebody? Because
Are you sure you were blind?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Do you have proof? I mean, so they keep circling back, and finally the man said, I don't know if he's a sinner or not. I really don't. I just know a couple of things. One, I was blind. Two, I can see. And then they go, they've asked him at least twice now, what did he do to you? How did he heal your eyes? And the man said, I've told you, and you don't really seem to want to listen to me. Do you want to hear it again? Why do you keep asking me this? Do you want to become his disciple?
Yeah.
Oh, no,
that pushed me. Yeah. And he gave him the two facts. I was blind. I can see these things. I know for sure. So then they say, well, we need some more information. So they go and they find his parents.
Yes.
And they say, is this your son? And of course, the parents a little fearful. They're kind of want a lawyer with him.
Yep.
Because get them in trouble.
Yeah. They'd already decided, hey, if anybody says that Jesus is the Christ, the anointed one, the Messiah, if anyone professes that, then they would be expelled from the synagogue, which means they would be unclean in the eyes of the temple. Their life would, in essence, be ruined if they were put out of the synagogue.
So they're very cautious.
Yeah.
And
Mom and Dad a little nervous.
Yeah. Is this your son? Yeah. Why? He was blind and now he sees. All we know is this morning when he left the house, he was blind.
He got up, he ate his Pop-Tart like he usually did, had a cup of coffee, and he was blind, and he left the house to go out and beg. That's sort of, same old every day.
But now he can see. We know nothing about this. He's our son, ate a Pop-Tart, left the house.
We don't know what he's gotten himself into.
After that, we are not responsible. He is an adult. You talk to him. Leave us out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that moment where the parents, his very own parents who have raised him, and imagine how much care he probably required because he could not see, especially in that time in our world. His parents
and the joy that their son who's been blind his whole life can see.
And his parents, in essence, they shove him as far out on the limb by himself as they can, and then they hug the trunk and start sawing as fast as they can because they're going to let the boy fall. It is not our responsibility at this point. He went off and got himself healed on the Sabbath. It is not our responsibility. You're going to have to deal with it. You're going to have to deal with it yourself. And that's what they do. They deal with him. And when they ask him this time, he's so mad. They're so mad at him. They're arguing over whether or not he's accusing them of wanting to be a disciple of Jesus. They're saying no. And finally they look at him and they go, look, you're nothing but a sinner. How are you trying to teach us anything? And they just dismiss him from their presence and they expel him from the synagogue. This man who now can see.
And his only thing he did was somebody walked by and gave him the ability to see.
Yeah.
So it's this great juxtaposition in those last conversations between the Pharisees and the man born blind, because he's speaking logically.
Yeah.
This man came by, he healed me, his name is Jesus, I don't know where he's at.
Yeah.
Are you his disciple? Well, I don't know. I mean, made me see, kind of make me want to think that's probably a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
And the juxtaposition is, who is really blind here?
Right.
Because this man who probably never had the opportunity for education, probably never had any opportunity in his life,
Yeah.
can see clear as a bell that something is going on divine, and the Pharisees are trying to find every way to prove that reality didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so the story then shifts back. They throw him out of the synagogue.
Yeah.
He runs into Jesus and really does confess him as Lord,
Mm-hmm.
and becomes his disciple.
Right. He says, I believe, and he worships him. And then Jesus encounters Pharisees. And maybe these are Pharisees that are concerned. Because remember, the Pharisees they've had this debate of, is he a sinner? Is he a healer? How can he heal on the Sabbath if he's a sinner? And all this. They've had this concern, this debate among themselves. And here some Pharisees come to Jesus, and they start talking to him. And he says that he's come into this world, and because he's in this world, those who haven't been able to see will see, and those who see will be blind. And they're a little bit concerned because they know all this is played out. They know this story. Maybe they feel bad because they really should be celebrating that someone born blind can see, but they're so stuck in their ways and so trapped by their law that they can't open their heart to that. And so they just look at him and say, surely we aren't blind, are we? And he said, well, if you were blind, you wouldn't have any sin in this. But now that you say, we see, your sin remains. They're so confident in what they're doing. He said, you're still trapped in your sin and you're not really seeing. You claim to see, but you're not seeing.
And the whole story for us, I think, as people who are, religious in our background,
Mm-hmm.
is we really need to be careful of the places that God may be at work that may not be the way that we would expect God to work.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden we're blind to the new reality that God is doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to say, well, that person, that group, that happening is going to mess up our system, and to try to write it off or try to make it stop. But in reality, we're the blind ones, not realizing that this is a move of God, and God really is at work right here and right now.
Yeah, that God, sometimes we need to be praying, maybe more often than we do, that God will open our eyes to what he's doing, that we won't be blind to it, so blind that like the Pharisees, we fight against it, but to open our eyes to it. But my other prayer will be that it won't involve spit.
I think we can make that prayer.